Most amazing footage for you. I'm going to translate the Spanish perfectly for you from President Bukele, or is it Bukele? He's from El Salvador. He shut down all the gangs. He kicked out all the crime. He's reforming the whole nation. The nation's cheering. The greatest populist sheep nation revival we've ever seen. Hope for America when that can happen. And then I've got a live session here where I'm going to show you in a minute. He shocks his cabinet by saying, you know, some of you are in jail for corruption. I've authorized the Attorney General to investigate all of you retroactively and in the future. I'm not going to be the president that wouldn't take a bribe that presided over a cabinet of criminals. Oh, my gosh. It flipped me. We're longing for someone who can crack down on the games and corruption that is played by demons in government and in business that seem to just run riot. Well, some intercessors doing their job. By the way, Russell Brand, he evidently has given his life to Christ. It's kind of a mystery as to what's happening with him, but he got water baptized, had this encounter, and feels like he's on a whole new journey. And you got to hear part of his testimony here. And of course, there's RFK talking about the WHO with Glenn Beck and how it's so dangerous what's happening in America that we're almost signing off our sovereignty as a nation to a World Health Organization that could cause us to shut our nation down. If they declare there's a pandemic, they got the aphrodisiac hit them with COVID. And they just love, the one worlders and the globalists love one mechanism to control, one ring to rule them all. I'm going to tell you what I'm focused on right now, though, is I got a testimony last night. I got to tell you, a minister you all know had received the level 10 matrix therapy recently. That's really cool therapy that I've had Pastor Shirley talk about as she had her cancer reversed after that. And this guy called me up and he said, you know, I actually had these lumps that were concern of mine, and they're reducing down to the size of pebbles right now in my body. All I'm going to tell you is before you medicate, before you operate, examine the science to regenerate. Just remember I told you that there's a way to regenerate and rebuild and restore before you have to cut and slice and dice or start taking chemicals. So I want you to go to level10matrix.com, level10matrix.com, and you'll just follow the protocol there, and we'll set you up for some kind of a conversation. You can talk to somebody, because I think it can make a massive difference in your life. It's doing it for, powerful, wild way for like hundreds of people that I'm getting literal testimonies from. All right, let's get into today's show. You're going to love it. I think I'm going to go right to the Glenn Beck quote here. This is kind of so interesting. And the point is that Glenn has Robert Kennedy on his show, is interviewing him. And you know, the one thing that Kennedy gets right that really eats a bit of Trump's base is our people are so flipped out over the vaccine phenomena of what took place. I mean, do you realize it was like a dress rehearsal for totalitarian takeover of the United States? You will be martial lawed into your house. You will be shut down in terms of work. You will be no more than a few people, social distancing, can't be meeting in your house with other people. I think we just memory hold the trauma of it. And then there were certain states like Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan and Gavin Newsom who will fine you or literally bulldoze your church down if you decide to meet there. I mean, just wild stuff. And we just forget it and let these people go on, blah, 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 like back to normal, even want to elect them. I'm thinking that, and I'm going to cover some at the WHO, because a lot of you have been asking me about, Lance, aren't you going to cover about what they're trying to do? There's so many panic points, right, on the console here. But the WHO is trying to force all the nations into signing their sovereignty away so that basically communist China, which is behind the new president of the WHO, can push a button and shut the whole world down in the event of they see an opportunity for a pandemic to develop. And then they're going to be doing more gain-of-function research all over the world on viruses. After we already had the leak of the last one, they're going to keep on trying to do more of it. It's insane. Robert Kennedy gets that. And he says, as president, I'll stop it. And I've got a whole lot of our side that says, for that reason alone, I'm voting for him, because they don't see the multitude of other issues that are there. I just wish President Trump had an awakening on this. He doesn't have it. He's got other fish to fry this week. But I wanted to cover that because here's the Glenn Beck interview. What they're saying is going to preempt it by saying, because I want to say it and then I want you to hear it and I want to say it again. Is it possible that what we're seeing here is not a Democrat and Republican issue because you don't have America in divide over the left and the right? They're a uniparty. You're not hearing any of them come out about the Trump trials. You're not hearing any of them come out about the border. You're not hearing any of them come out about the Ukraine spending and the deficit, because they're pretty much all but like 10% of them are all paying the man off for their future money and security. It's sick what's happened. We got a character, crisis in America. But there's a uniparty. So what do you really have? You have class warfare. That's the real Marxist game going on. It's not left and right and Republican, Democrat. It's the elites that are global against the common man, and the common man is being manipulated by the elites into warring with each other. What do you think of the theory? Let's hear what happens.
We're right now fighting Democrats, Republicans, and I don't think it's Democrats and Republicans. I think that's a stage show. I think it is the elites and the people.
It's a populist and like a class war, like you say. Populism is easily hijacked by demagogues.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be dark.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be fascism or Nazism.
Yes.
It was the populist movement in our country in 1903 that got rid of the Gilded Age, and we got the 40-hour work week. We had the child labor. We got women the vote. We got the Sherman Antitrust Act passed, and we made corporations to pay taxes for the first time. We're seeing a revolution in this country that's going to happen. You can't have a situation, 57% of the people in this country can't put their hands on $1,000 if they have an emergency. 54% of the people in this country are not making enough money to pay for basic human needs. And there's going to be a revolution. And is it going to be captured by dark regressive forces? Or are we going to be able to keep it as an expression?
Well, it's a very move, especially when you have the music behind it. It really makes it even more compelling. Music really enhances everything. So that's why I really want to, when Gavin Newsom puts out his commercials, I don't want to play the commercial he's got now, but it is so manipulating at a primitive, primal level. A young girl who's desperate to try to go to Planned Parenthood with her girlfriend, and they're being pulled over by a cop representing Trump and the Republicans and the anti-abortion bigots that say you're going to have to pull over and do a pregnancy test. And it's like they're playing this thing. It makes, I just wish we had the counter that would be as effective as it could be. And I guess that wish will be satisfied by somebody.
What's weird is that it works on people. Like, I look at that ad, which I know we're not playing for whatever reason, but I look at that ad and I think it's comedic in a lot of ways. Like, it's so overly exaggerated. They're rushing to try to get across the state line, and the cop comes up, and it's nothing you would think. And he taps a pregnancy test on the window. He's like, I'm going to need you to take a pregnancy test. And then like arrests her and throws her over the hood of a car. I'm like, it's so exaggerated. I think to normal, reasonable people, it seems like, oh my gosh, really? But then there's actual people who have a fear of that. Like they think that that's what's happening in like Alabama or Mississippi or in Texas, that's what's really going on. And that's not going on at all. I mean, it just tells you how different, how polar opposite worlds we live in.
Back to the music theme, I want to recreate that ad. And instead of having their soundtrack, I want to have from the Three Stooges. I want to know what happens if you actually take it from being drama to being satire. Mm-hmm. And you even could take over the dialogue and just put other words in their mouths. Now, they probably would sue you because you're messing up their commercial, but I don't know that they would sue you. I think it could be done for purely artistic purposes, for comedic relief, because that stuff is, and then you showed me the other one, which is a Florida principal who has a guy who got arrested. I mean, I did see this, arrested for creating a slanderous AI manipulation of the principal's voice to make a racist rant against black people and Jews. Yeah. So that it could get leaked out to different teachers in the teachers union and then go viral and then pull him out as principal of the school. And he never said any of what they said. It was simply sound bites they have of him recordings that they manipulated.
It's not sound bites. That's not how AI works. I'm just going to let you know. So,
All
and
right.
let's just
How does it
clarify
work,
too.
Mercedes?
It's Maryland High School, not a Florida high school. And so anyway, just trying to get a couple things in there. But the way AI works is like they could take your voice, Lance. They could take my voice just from a broadcast like this, or Trump's voice, or anybody you know. And then you can just upload a small snippet of a recording. And the way that AI is, it'll pick up all the intonations to get it very, very close to what you sound like. And then you can just type a script in there of anything you want it to say. Not only can it do it with audio like that, it can actually make it look like me sitting here, you're watching me, it can make it look like I'm saying those words. There's software out there you can buy right now that does that. And people use it for marketing reasons, right? Like maybe I want to send a message to all of my customers, hey, Shirley, it's Mercedes. But I can make it say anything. It's actually very, very dangerous when you see it used in this way. So I want everybody to know we live in a world right now where you can not only not trust what you hear, but you can't trust what you see. So when you see, I mean, imagine, Lance, if this technology existed when Hillary was running and they had the whole Russia gate, you would have recordings of Trump talking to the Russian prostitutes, quote unquote, right? Like that's how ridiculous this is going to get.
Do you remember Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Running Man? How they would play out there in the public. This is so sci-fi. It'd be like in Times Square. They have these big monitors and they'd play segments of AI manipulated history.
Yeah.
In order to build the populist manipulation behind why they were punishing certain people. And they put their enemies into that fake script.
Yeah.
And so that they would basically kill them off.
Yeah.
And then he gets the true script, and they put the true one out there.
All that exists
right now.
right now.
Whoever thought that would be what was coming?
All of that exists right now. And just so people know at home too, I mean, it's to the point where you'll get a phone call from your kid and it'll sound like your kid, Mom, I was in an accident. Mom, I'm in jail. Mom, whatever it is. And it sounds like your child in distress and you need to bring money somewhere.
I need the credit card. I need some money quick. I need the credit card.
Correct. That's why everybody needs to have safe words now. You have to have like a code word you say on the phone. It's wild. So this principal's life was turned upside down as a result.
Well, I hope he gets his job back.
Yes, I think so.
I think he should create an AI on the guy that actually set him up.
Well, it might have been students. That's what I'm saying. It's just, it could have been anybody. This is accessible to anybody right now.
Well, all I could say is the El Salvadorian president, President Bukele, amazing guy. He's the guy that eradicated crime in his country because he took all the MS-13 gangs and unleashed the military. Just rounded them all up. You're all tattooed with MS-13. That's all I need to know. Boom. They're all in prison. It's amazing. Suddenly, it's the safest little country in Central America, South America. Then the economy is starting to flip around. And then he just had this wild meeting. I'm going to play it for you. It's going to freak you out. All the corruption that is in their government, he just has a meeting, and it's filmed live, where he says, I am authorizing the Attorney General to investigate every one of you. Every one of you. And if any of you has been caught with graft, corruption, or compromise, you're going to be going to jail. And not only for the past, but in the future. He's the only one not to be investigated. And then, oh my gosh, it's like chilling. Watch this. In fact, I'm going to read it for you. Everyone here from the executive branch, that I oversee, except for one person, the Attorney General, he's not part of the executive branch. But he's here for a simple reason. I want to ask him publicly. I want to ask him right here publicly to investigate everyone sitting here, retroactively and into the future. I imagine that there should be no problem with that, right? I won't be the president that didn't steal but was surrounded by criminals. I want to be remembered as the president who didn't steal and didn't let anyone else steal either, and the one who put whoever stole in prison. There are a couple of you who are already there. There are a couple of you who are already there, and I'm coming for the rest of you. My gosh, amazing. I want to take a moment to talk about the volatile financial time that we're in, and I want you to empower yourself with knowledge. My people perish for lack of knowledge, the Bible says. Visit lancewallnau.com/birch and get a free information kit. Consider discussing how to shift your 401k or your retirement account into a tax-sheltered gold and silver account. Why don't you go to lancewallnau.com/Birch right now and take action for a secure future. Now, somebody might say to me, Lance, what was that? Because you haven't been paying attention. You see, there are nations that are going through the convulsions that we're going through, and they're coming out with surprising breakthrough. Argentina, with President Milei, this guy, the first time in like 25, 30 years that corrupt socialist mess down there is showing a positive cash flow in the economy, because that guy who was like a comical, out of left field, communicator, grabbed the populist movement by the throat and said, I'm getting rid of all these fake woke areas of communist socialism. Capitalism is the only thing that works. Whoa! You need to know it's possible in America. I know right now the lunatic asylum is kind of in charge of the hospital, but that can change. This President Bukele, who is in El Salvador, overnight took care of their criminal drug infestation gang problem by unleashing the military. By the way, he came in like Trump. He's a business guy. He didn't want to be involved with politics. You know why? He said both parties are corrupt. But he's interesting fellow. He did receive a warning from certain, let's say, prophetic type people who came to him and said that God is calling him to run for office, and he rejected it. Second guy comes and says, God's calling you to run for office. And if the story's correct, and I got this from an economist who worked in the Reagan administration. He went and interviewed him. The third time, a man came and said to him, you don't want to be the man who God had to send a fourth person to. You're to run for office. And that put like a fear of God on him, because these people didn't know each other. And so he'd been wrestling with the thought he would love to run, but both parties are corrupt. He couldn't join either party. So he said, all right, God, I'll do this one thing. I'll run, but I'm going to run it as a write-in candidate. And so he wrote his own name in, and oddly enough, the people elected him. He didn't have a party. First thing he does is he said, I'm getting rid of the corruption. Boom. I'm getting rid of the gangs. Boom. I'm going to get rid of the drugs. Boom. Then, and the nation loves it. Of course, who wouldn't love it? The populace will reward you for that. Now, in that segment I just played for you, he's going after the corruption in the bureaucracy. And he said, we're going to investigate every one of you. I already put some of you in jail. I'm going to get the rest of you too. Well, you talk about the fear of God coming upon a faculty.
It's like a Cyrus.
There's
like
your modern day Cyrus. Trump is timid by comparison because he's got saboteurs all over the place. Mm-hmm. Anyway, wow. Russell Brand, I just showed you him. Got Jordan Peterson out there. We got this El Salvadorian. There's hope, is what I'm trying to say. You guys got to see it for what it is. Now, I did allude to this earlier. I need to come back to it. On the Dark Horse podcast, that little bit by Kennedy, in case you somehow missed it, I want to get to you about the maniacs at the United Nations and the World Health Organization. Michelle Bachmann is always on this, and she's talking about it. They're proposing revisions to an existing pandemic treaty. Imagine this. The globalists, the Klaus Schwabs of the world, the Soroses, they want global mechanisms that heads of state all sign off on. And they did. China, U.S., they're all willing to sign off on this thing. It was the little nations like El Salvador and Argentina and Guatemala and Hungary. These nations, the sheep nations, see the trap of the global one world government, one world currency, one world health thing, one world. They see it for what it is, and they push back. And right now, God's given us a reprieve. Those of you that are alarmed and concerned about this WHO treaty, the World Health Organization treaty, imagine that, forcing the shutdown with the next pandemic and the forced vaccination of all nations. Yeah, that's where they'd like to take it. One of the most alarming parts of the proposed draft was language that essentially put the WHO in charge of every country, including the United States. All that the WHO would have to do is declare a pandemic, and look out, Lucy, every country has to shut down. Worse, to approve this grotesque mockery of democratic ideals, all that would have to happen would be for the leader of each country, in our case, Joe Biden, to just sign the thing. And that presumably has the force of a treaty that obligates your country to the global order. This is what they're doing. This is what Biden and the Democrats would do in a heartbeat, and Trump wouldn't. It's not perfect, but listen to what they did. They modified the draft to kill the binding effect of everybody's got to shut down when we tell you to. The current draft still does some bedeviling stuff like letting the WHO declare their global pandemic and push for a 100-day turbo-developed vaccine. Guarantee the pharmaceuticals want that football thrown to them. But the greatest risks have been sliced out. Namely, they can't force the shutting down. They can't force the vaccination. That's up to each nation to do. But believe it or not, it was, like I said, the small countries that pushed back. Now, Kennedy did tweet something out. Do I have that Kennedy quote somewhere? Maybe we could bring it. I'm going to read it to you here. Or Mercedes, do you want to read it?
Robert F. Kennedy tweeted, do we say tweeted? X'd? What do we do?
Yes.
X'd? He X'd. People around the world are rejecting the WHO's attempt to take over global public health. In desperation, watered-down versions of the proposed international health regulations and pandemic treaty were floated over the past few days. Don't be fooled. The WHO still wants experimental vaccines rolled out, still wants liability shields, still wants to impose censorship, and still wants to use, quote, One Health, unquote, to control humans, plants, animals, and ecosystems, all in the name of health. The WHO still plans to collect, quote, potential pandemic pathogens, end quote, to be, quote, shared globally. This is an illegal attempt to proliferate biological warfare agents, which are weapons of mass destruction. This is illegal, immoral, and incredibly dangerous. Legislators in countries around the world are saying no. When I'm president, we will reject the amendments and leave the pandemic treaty. I'm the only candidate who understands the dangers of biological weapons, parentheses, and gain-of-function research, end of parentheses. I'm the candidate who will end this dangerous research and strengthen international rules to end the creation of dangerous viruses in labs worldwide. Hashtag Kennedy Shanahan, 24.
Okay, so here you've got it. And I got to say that the only thing that I other than his disposition, which is, his idea is that, listen, we don't want to be enemies in this country. This is class warfare. This is the elites fighting the people. This is not really, this isn't how democracy is supposed to function. And we're in a moment of history where we could lose our country if we cave in to this, to what's taken over the Democratic Party, and if they're allowed 4 more years to take over the rest of the country. It's like an infection.
I think Trump gets that, though, now, don't you?
Oh, Trump gets it.
I think he goes
but does
kind of
Trump get the
there.
threat of the pharmaceutical companies and the bad advice he was given?
Yeah, I think he does at this point, personally, but maybe not.
You guys, let me see in your comments. Do you think he does? Let's see if Mercedes is right. Maybe I'm. Well, I don't want to make it a competition.
Thank you. Wow.
Do you think
new behavior?
Yes, it is. And I'm going to have a little AI of your voice saying, Lance, you're right, so that I can hear that more often. So we're just going to put down in the comments section there. Do you think Trump now gets the threat with the pharmaceuticals, or he doesn't get the threat? I want to know what your thoughts are. But while you're doing that, I have something. I only have 1 minute and 26 seconds left, and I hate that.
Hey, what do you think about a Trump-Kennedy ticket? You think that would ever happen? I don't think he's going to pull out. Like Trump-Kennedy. Like Trump.
Oh, he floated
Kennedy.
it. He floated. But they're ideologically in 2 separate worlds. I mean, unfortunately, Kennedy is a bit of an environmentalist. You heard what Jordan Peterson said there in an earlier segment.
Yeah.
Kennedy still is stuck on the environmental thing. He's also pro-abortion.
Yeah, that and guns. He would sign a gun ban.
Not good.
Yeah.
But I want to give you this thing on what's happening with Trump's case. What it comes down to is the case is really about election interference. It's not about election interference. It's not about an attempt to criminalize his personal check to Stormy Daniels. Boring as it sounds, it's a case about business integrity, and Trump is accused of creating 11 false invoices, 12 false ledger entries, and 11 false checks and check stubs in order to keep his $130,000 check from being disclosed to the federal elections surveyors, who would love to take that check, pull it out, and make it a news cycle item to kill candidate Trump in the primaries. So basically, he did a bookkeeping manipulation to keep a personal scandal from public view. If that's proven, they will put him in jail. That's the overreach. That's the exaggerated response of government. They will jail him in New York. They have an 83% Democrat sympathetic jury. He's playing to the wrong crowd. And if they can make the case that he was hiding the embarrassment and the information in order to get elected, then they'll find him guilty. And the only hope it could possibly maybe mitigate that would be if the Trump lawyers can make the case that it wasn't him that made those decisions, but staff trying to do the best way of keeping it hidden without him knowing about it. And then it's going to be Michael Cohen saying, oh, he knew because I did it with him. And then Michael Cohen, of course, is already guilty of lying on other stuff, and they'll say he's a liar, liar, pants on fire. And it's going to come down to, once again, 83% are Democrats on the jury, and they have to go home to their family and friends. My concern is they're worried about their social peer group pressure when they get home. And so if Trump does get convicted, does the Supreme Court case that they're looking at now about presidential immunity, will it extend to this? I don't think so, because this was a pre-election act. And so they're going to have difficulty even with the Supreme Court extending that. What will happen in this is it might be overturned higher up after the election. We could have a real constitutional crisis. A president jailed, running for office who gets elected. America is in the crazy place it's in because we haven't got a verdict from God yet on a national awakening.
Is he
Our
in
job
jail?
is to get that a national awakening.
So wait, you're saying you think he can be elected while he's in jail?
Yeah.
Can he pardon himself from jail?
No.
You sure?
I don't think he can.
Oh, that would be crazy though.
But you see, this is. I think I'm going to find out. I want someone to look up what Kavanaugh said about what would happen if Trump was jailed and this political process is interrupted. I think Kavanaugh gave a warning about what happens to America when the weaponization of the justice system is politicized and it's used inappropriately in candidates' lives, as is happening here. Well, anyway, I would love to keep this conversation going. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm telling you folks out there that look to people like us to give you an analysis of what's taking place. This is the challenge we have. They want to put these cases of trivia into D.C. or New York, where a jury will rule. I mean, they already took $450 million of Trump's money because they decided to punish him for the bank doing deals they liked, but Trump never should have done those good of deals. And then they got a woman who had nothing to do with him who got $83 million, and that happened in New York. I'm telling you, you have to be really dumb not to see the pattern. New York will take a case against Trump, and they will find him guilty even if he isn't. So we have to be having the conversation. I'm going to probably get one of our Supreme Court lawyers on the show, and I'm going to say, walk me down the trail. Wouldn't you like to get that? Because I don't think I've heard authoritative analysis of that
think
yet.
so. Chelsea, the producer, just texted and said that Trump would have to serve as president from jail if he was elected, but also convicted, which would be a fascinating situation. Could you imagine him in jail as president? Like, doing the cabinet meetings in jail? Like, that would be wild. I don't know if that's true. So we definitely need a lawyer to come and tell us how this is supposed to play out.
This is going into the realm of TikTok videos now where Mercedes excels.
She said it's Dr. Phil who said it.
Has Dr. Phil said it?
Yeah. I got a clip. I don't know.
It has credibility if Dr. Phil said it. Maybe we should get him on the show. I got to stop now. I got to do something for my friends at Prophetic Convergence. And I'm looking forward to talking to you all tomorrow. By the way, don't forget to go to thecouragetour.com, thecouragetour.com, and put the word courage down in the comments if you're on Facebook or on Instagram, or go to thecouragetour.com, period, because I'll be in your neighborhood. I'm going to be there. I was just in Phoenix. I was just in Atlanta area. I was just going to be heading up to Michigan, going to be in Wisconsin with Mario Murillo, and we're going to be in Pennsylvania. And I'd hate to be in town and you go, I didn't know you were here, because we're doing these wild, great meetings. All right, see you again tomorrow. Same time, same bat channel.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world